Like, you had, like, all these government multipliers. So, like, you had, like, if you worked on Sunday, you would get paid more money. If you worked on the weekends, you would get paid more money. And if you worked at night, you would get paid more money. So, like, if you can work on Sunday at night, and this is, like, back 10 years ago, right? Like, more than that. Like, you were getting paid, like, $25 an hour. So, like, everybody was trying to get in on that, right? Like, they were constantly trying. Yeah, double time. Yeah, and then you also have your overtime pay that kicks in at what was it? At over 40 hours. Yeah, it still is like that. Yeah, exactly, right? And so people were trying to farm this as much as they could. Stacking multipliers? Yeah, they were playing like an ARPG.
Is now putting in an average of 9.2 hours of unpaid overtime.
Yeah, so it's
These
way
jobs
different if you're
often
salaried.
don't have much trouble finding people to start, but they do struggle with high staff turnover. The third are simply jobs that never actually existed.
Right.
You probably all know about ghost jobs by now. But even if you really do want to work, there's a good chance that most of your applications are just going to build out a workforce database.
Oh, they put this out there because they legally have to, but they've already decided to hire the person in-house for... Okay, yeah.
Not to actually be considered for employment.
Yeah.
Now, whatever the specific reason, the results are the same. Less people end up working. But aside from settling some beef between entitled Zoomers and some out-of-touch boomers, this data all reveals something more concerning about work in the current economy. It's not that people don't want to work anymore. They simply can't afford to.
It's not even that. It's that people are disconnected from the fruits of their labor. They have no means of understanding and owning any degree of, like, what's the word? Like, having any degree of self-respect, of any dignity, of any sort of light at the end of the tunnel. Like, you're just working at the Amazon fulfillment center, putting things in boxes for 20 years, and nobody gives a fuck about you until you get replaced by a robot. Like, of course people don't want to do that. Why would somebody want to do that? And I think also the internet has provided people with a false sense of thinking that they can, like, make a ton of money on the internet, when a lot of the people that... This is, like, going to be maybe a hot take, but you know how people always say that, like, oh, well, Bill Gates and Steve Jobs dropped out of college? Yeah, they did. They dropped out of Harvard because their business was doing so well. You can't apply this to you dropping out of community college or your local state university because you don't want to take the math class again for the third time. So you have a lot of people that are trying to compete on, like, on an international level on the internet, and they're not willing to put in the work for it. They're not willing to be creative. They're not willing to actually... A lot of people don't understand how to make money. Fundamentally, making money is finding a need and then solving the problem, and then getting people to solve that problem, getting people to pay you to solve that problem for them, right? That's basically what almost all ways of making money are. So people don't really understand that, and because of that, they try to go on the internet and make money, and they can't do it. And I think that in a lot of cases, it's because they're fucking lazy. And you guys know this with streamers. Like, a lot of streamers that aren't successful or that lose success, it's because they are or they get lazy. Like, yeah, you're not going to do very well if you're not putting in 100%. And it's people everywhere, right? It's people with crypto, it's people with making websites, it's people with doing course programs, it's people with everything. Like, the people that you really see succeed in anything are almost always the people that are working at it constantly. A lot of people think being self-employed is like a, you know, it's like a free blank check to just, oh, well, I can just work whenever I want, so I just won't hardly work at all. But if you do that, you're not going to be self-employed for very long. That's just how it is.
So it's time to learn how money works to find out what's really behind the worst phrase in the workplace. This week's video is sponsored by MyHeritage. Ever wondered what remarkable stories are hidden in your family history?
No.
MyHeritage is the world's leading platform for genealogy research and DNA testing, trusted by over 90 million users worldwide. With 20 billion historical records and advanced AI tools, MyHeritage makes exploring your roots not just accessible, but truly enjoyable.
Bro, I read this Black Friday DNI sale. I read that something totally different. I was like, what the fuck?
Here's a fun discovery I made. My great-grandfather started a brewery in Germany, and it's still thriving today. Imagine finding out your family's legacy is still making its mark. That's the kind of excitement MyHeritage can unlock.
Right.
I started my journey by adding a few basic details, and their Instant Discoveries feature brought my family tree to life with whole new branches in seconds. It was incredible to learn about connections I didn't even know I had, including distant cousins who lived fascinating lives. One of my favorite parts of using MyHeritage is transforming old black and white photos with their photo colorization and animation tools. When I colorized a photo of my great-great-grandmother Sophie, it felt like stepping back in time and seeing her smile come to life. The animations even added a touch of personality, showing what her expressions
that's just weird, bro.
And mannerisms might have been like. And
this is the first point, gentlemen. Do you know what we just witnessed? Necromancy version 1.0. It will never be worse than it is now. Keep in mind.
Not just about what you see. MyHeritage also lets you deep dive into historical records to uncover stories and details. From ship manifests to old census data, seeing your ancestors' lives unfold in official documents is like piecing together a historical puzzle.
Right.
Ready to discover your own family's hidden stories? MyHeritage offers a 14-day free trial so you can experience the platform's full range of features. Start your journey today. Trust me, you'll be amazed by what you uncover. Okay, so yeah. There are millions of people out there that think nobody wants to work because they couldn't hire someone with 20 years of experience on a programming language that has only been out for 5 years for $15 an hour.
Yeah.
There are also people who don't want to work because they think unless they are offered six figures in their first role out of high school, it's not worth their time.
Yep.
And they would be better off sitting at home working on their NFT dropshipping business.
Maybe they would be. Maybe they would be. The thing is, like, I never shit on anybody who's trying to hustle and make money. I know that as a kid, I was hustling, trying to make money at like 5 years old. And so by the time I was in middle school, like I was already making money like 5 or 6 different ways. Like my mom would buy me a lot of video games, but I'd also buy a lot of my own video games. That's what I spent all my fucking money on. And I never sold drugs either. Never sold drugs at all. And anyway, like people always do or make assumptions. Yeah, no, you should always, if you think that you can do something successful as an individual, you should always go for it. Fuck it.
Both of these groups definitely exist in shockingly large numbers. But even though it's really fun to make fun of both sides, it distracts from the much more important reason why labor force participation is getting worse.
Yeah.
Well, as you might have been able to guess, this trend is really being driven by specific age groups and specific locations.
Yeah, of course.
If you look at labor force participation and exclude the youngest generation of workers and the oldest generation of workers, it's actually approaching all-time highs. Which really makes sense when you think about it. It's common for both men and women to work full-time these days, and for most households, it's simply a financial necessity. So yeah, even if people don't want to work anymore, they kind of are stuck doing it anyway.
You have to work.
У меня вид
This won't be the case forever.
4К.
Soon, there's going to be so
Чё бы
many
нет?
automation
Чё бы нет?
tools and ways
Челов
that
на
people's jobs get replaced by
14К,
robots
90%
that
играет.
having a job will no longer be a
Просто одни
requirement
единички.
in everyday life.
Я вдвое на
It's
4К
it's
сижу,
unavoidable.
поиграю.
The reason labor force participation has fallen off in general, though, is because the average is being dragged down by a lot of young workers and old workers.
Yep.
The old workers are the easiest to explain. As people started living
They
longer,
retire.
retirement
Yeah.
ages were pushed
Ну,
back,
нормально.
and more of the population
Нормально
began
нахуй, да?
working in non-physical jobs.
Просто
As a
нормально.
result, a larger share of the population over 55
Вот
remained
моя
in
судьба
workforce.
проигрывать на
This has
4500
started
в
to reverse,
досах,
though, as
играя
self-funded
идеально.
retirement
Челы,
systems and
играя
general asset prices have allowed a lot of
хорошо,
over 55s to step back from
получают
the labor
Damn.
force,
вниз.
especially after COVID, as a lot
Не
of people
напрягаясь.
received severance packages and decided that an early retirement was better than going back to the office.
Yeah, it's probably good.
Labor force participation from young people just entering the workforce either out of high school or college is also pulling down the average, just for different reasons. More people than ever are getting a college degree, which means they are starting to work later. And fewer people are working part-time jobs while they study because for many, it's simply not worth it given how much debt they are going to be in when they graduate anyway.
Yeah, it's because people don't want to do it. I think that like what's happened also is that people have just kind of given up on thinking that if you work hard, you're going to be successful. And I think it's kind of a toxic mindset to have, but I feel like a lot of people do have it. And because of that, you have nowadays, people just don't give a fuck. They don't care about working hard. They don't care about doing anything. And you can't really blame them because for them, there's no amount of work that they're going to be able to do that's going to give them the lifestyle that they want. I gave up. Yeah, exactly. It's too much. Work smart, not hard. Yeah, but here's the problem, is that when you're stupid, you can't work smart. You see that? That's the concern, is that if you're dumb, you can't do that.
This might not also be a shock to
Fix
you.
the school system? Some people are born with less talent points than other people. Everybody has a different height. Everybody has a different facial structure. There are some people that are just stupid. And you're not going to be able to train somebody like that to understand a job that requires a lot of critical thinking. That's it. Like in the same way that you can never train a dog to drive. It's just not going to happen. You can't train a dog to write language or to, a monkey to build a house. You can't do it. So there are some people that are closer to that than you might imagine. And every single day, the threshold for a person to get in and have a good living gets higher. It's not like before stupid people had a harder job. It used to be easy if you were stupid to get a job. But now it's a lot harder because most of those jobs have been replaced because they're super simple. Because if they weren't super simple, the stupid people wouldn't have been able to do them. That's just it.
But it's getting really damn hard to find a job out of college.
Yeah.
A few months ago, a post from a professor at Berkeley made the rounds after it spoke about his top students from a top college struggling to find work in technology, an industry that was hiring highly intelligent graduates like this as fast as they could make them just 24 months ago. Previously, a Berkeley CS graduate, even if not a top student, would receive multiple appealing job offers in terms of work type, location, salary, and employer. However, outstanding students, like those with a 4.0 in major GPA, are now contacting me worried because they have zero offers.
I think that also another big component for this too, this is probably not something a professor would say, is that if you, like for those of you guys that are business owners, would you want to hire somebody who came out of a really good university or somebody who's self-taught, self-motivated, and has been coding ever since they were 9 years old? I wonder. Yeah, I fucking wonder, right? I mean, there it is. It depends. I would always take somebody probably. And here's really what the point is. The point is that going to university, what you learn in a lot of cases is probably not as... Like a lot of what I learned, let's say 10 years ago, or even like, 5 years after I graduated, that stuff didn't have any relevance anymore. It wasn't important. So you have people that in a lot of cases, and this is especially true with like business school, where a lot of classes in business school, especially undergraduate classes, are a complete waste of time. All they're doing is they basically created terminology to fill up the space of a class time. It doesn't actually, like, it's not applicable to the real world. It doesn't have any actual function. It's like people that understand, like, I always make this joke, right? I had a friend that got a job, or sorry, he got a degree in theoretical physics, and it got him a theoretical job. And then he had to go back and get an actual engineering degree. Like, a lot of people that understand things on, like, a theoretical level, they're not ready to, like, work and compete. And this is actually even something that, like, I remember seeing some guy talk about this. Like, he went to school for, like, computer science, and then he went to, like, DEF CON or something like that, or, like, some sort of computer science convention. And he was comparing himself to the people that actually were there. And he was like, oh, my God, I'm so far behind. It's embarrassing. It's insane. So I feel like the lack of quality of universities to, like, deliver quality candidates is a big issue. And I think the reason why it happens is, like, you could say it's DEI or something like that, but I actually don't think that's the reason. I think especially with tech, it's because the field moves so fast that what you learned in freshman year probably isn't relevant by the time you graduate. That's the truth. And so I think that's the real reason why it's happening too, especially with universities and high-end universities. And this is also, like, by the way, like, I mean, obviously, like, I do some hiring and things like that, but, like, I am speaking from a third-party perspective. This is just an observation.
I suspect this trend is irreversible and likely part of the broader trend impacting almost every employment sector. It's pretty grim stuff coming out of one of the best schools in the country.
Doesn't matter.
It might not be the most logical thing to do. But a common reaction from people who can't land a job with a degree they got to make them more employable is to just go get another degree. The rate of mass...
That's what my friend did, yeah. He had over $100,000 in debt. By the time that he finished, now, like, nowadays, like, he's working, I think he's up in, like, Chicago, something like that. And he's had a kid recently, actually, my other friend told me. And, like, he's probably making, like, $150,000, $250,000 a year now, right? Like, he's fine. But, man, there's a lot of people that don't have that.
Masters and PhD recipients has grown even faster than people getting an undergraduate degree, because that's now normal to stand out in a highly competitive job market. And to be honest, it's a nice way for people to avoid the reality of the job market for another few years. Spending another 2 to 8 years at college.
They think that they're going to wait it out and then the economy will be better in 4 years. But what I think is going to happen is that a lot of people are going to get degrees that will be made invalid or irrelevant in 4 years.
Get advanced degree means people aren't in the labor force, which pulls down the average to look worse than it really is. So those are the ages that are perpetuating this dumb myth. But this trend is also highly dependent on location. And to see that, you need to go to the place where apparently the absolute least amount of people want to work.
West Virginia? Wait, really?
Yes. The Rust Belt state has the lowest labor force participation in the country.
Damn,
but
so
also
that's where
some of the most unusual statistical anomalies. The state is quite poor after its major industries like coal mining and manufacturing were either outsourced or simply fell out.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you're a coal miner, like, you don't have to be a wizard to be a coal miner. You cannot know how to use a smartphone and be a coal miner. And so, and I do think you don't. No, you don't. And the fact is that, like, those people, like, if your job is turning a nut on something like this, there's not a lot of brain power that requires. It's rough work. Horses work their fucking ass off, but they're stupid. Working hard and having to do something that requires critical thought are two very different things. In my opinion, one of the hardest jobs in the world is working in a restaurant. Now, that requires some degree of critically thinking. Absolutely it does. But it's not like a doctor or something like that. So yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of different spectrums here that are working at the same time.
This means that a lot of areas have effectively been left behind with no major
Бам-бам,
employment
слаб,
opportunities, meaning that labor force
ситуация
participation
просто на
is much
попу и
lower than the
нормально.
national average.
This is exactly what I said at the beginning, right? Like, he's literally fucking saying it. That the people that can't get jobs are the people that used to have really simple manual labor jobs.
But strangely, in some areas, the participation rate is much higher than what would be expected. A recent study conducted by economists from Hamline University, Cornell, and Virginia Tech found that depending on the county, labor force participation in West Virginia ranges from 42% to 77%, a gap between regions of 35%, while the average across the US states is just 17%. Less than half of West Virginia. It's not unusual that cities and working towns will have higher labor force participation than other areas, because people often specifically move to these locations just to get
for a job,
work. But this variance was startling and uncovered a bigger national trend. The people in areas that still had work can't afford not to work, and the people in areas with no work couldn't afford to move to areas with work, since it could mean giving up family support networks or simply paying for the cost to relocate.
So they're just fucked no matter what. That sucks.
A lot of people who had the financial means have already moved out of the state, only making this problem worse, as they take business opportunities and money away with them. It's a dense read because it's an academic paper. It's for nerds. But if you ever feel compelled to say that nobody wants to work anymore, I definitely suggest you have a look at it. The report itself also looks at welfare issues specific to West Virginia. But just because the state is experiencing this problem the worst doesn't mean that it's in any way just something hurting them.
It's a mining canary. This shit's gonna happen everywhere.
Now, the trend of a few concentrated cities doing extremely well while everywhere else stagnates can make nationwide figures look good. But it also means people who want to work have an option of trying their luck for one of the few jobs left in areas with fewer opportunities, or living in an extremely expensive city to compete with everybody else, fighting over a spot in the few places left where people can reliably get ahead. Finance and tech have become one of the last escape ropes for people to make a deal with the devil to get out of these areas with little to no opportunities.
It's a deal with the
and
devil.
I am going to be writing an article about how even that career path is becoming impossible in my completely free
Of course
email.
it's becoming impossible because there's a lot of people that are
Опять
getting into it.
дегенерская линейность,
Here's the
просто
truth, is that
полное
if you're getting
полное
into a field
издевательство.
because you
Да
want to make a
похуй.
lot of money,
Нормально,
you
да.
probably don't
Нормально,
have any
стало.
intrinsic interest in the field,
Просто
which means
на
that you're
похуй,
probably
он,
not going to be
смотрите,
very good at
все
what
как
you're
я и
doing,
говорю, и меня
which
на
means
похуй
that you're
просто
going to
пушат
get beat out by people
топ-4 на
that
4400 при
do have intrinsic interest in it,
полусилиях.
and they're going to beat the shit out
Бля,
of
это
you.
просто
And
пиздец.
so, big surprise, like,
Просто
oh, I
на
went into
похуй.
finance because I wanted to make
Это
a lot of
тоже
money.
приятный
Yeah,
момент.
there's people that also go into finance because they really like finance. And they're the ones that are
Ну,
going to work
посмотрите на эту
longer,
хуйню
they're going to
ебаную.
work harder, because they can
Просто так
self-motivate.
перерисовали карты. Ну, нормально.
That's really what it's going to be. Yeah, you're going to lose every single time.
Newsletter. So sign up if you are interested in reading
Ещё
that
можно
and other
пробить.
articles that will never be made into
Ну.
videos here. Thanks for watching, and thanks again to
Ну,
My
все
Heritage for making
непоследовательно,
this
не могу
video
разбить эту
possible.
карту,
Check
блядь,
them out
просто
by scanning
заебись.
this QR code
Дракон
or
ударит
clicking the
еще
link in
раз.
the description.
Ну, нет.
Now, obviously, a lot of this can be
Нормально.
handled by companies just allowing
Я не
remote work,
залетаю,
so go
если
and
у
watch
меня,
my recent video on why
просто.
companies absolutely will
просто.
not let that happen for anybody except their CEOs. And make sure to like and subscribe to keep on learning how money works.
What, for some sort of like
It's a
fucking economy thing? Like, yeah, I'm not sure. But like, yeah, no, discipline beats motivation every time. Yeah,
course.
but here's the problem. People that say things like, oh, discipline beats motivation. Do you know what beats discipline and motivation? Sorry, discipline or motivation? Discipline and motivation. The people that you're competing against for jobs that start at $200,000 a year are extremely disciplined, and they also know what the fuck they're doing.
Нормально, вон. Чел из 600
Like, I mean, you're
таверни без
competing at a
проблем.
very,
То есть на
very
похуй
high
мне
level.
кидает ботов,
And so,
которые
yeah, I mean,
меня
it's
линейно
super simple.
выпуливают.
An actual skill, yeah,
Тут нахуй.
exactly. I mean, you have to have both in order to compete at an extremely high level. Yeah, or they know someone. Yeah, but like you can rule. Like, I mean, there's always going to be people that get ahead for some bullshit reason that they shouldn't be getting ahead for. Like, this is like back in the day, you had, you know, like kings that were like products of incest and were like basically functionally mentally deficient. Like, you had all this kind of stuff happen for many, many years. There's nothing new with that. It's never going to go away. Yeah, nepotism. Yeah, I mean, well, nepotism used to literally be the rule of the land. It was called royalty. There's the video. I agree with pretty much everything he said. A lot of people, like, I'm the kind of person that I believe that, I actually think that what's going to end up happening is that there are going to be so many jobs that become they become automated that you're no longer going to be able to expect to have a job. And when that happens, then you're going to see more conversations about universal basic income. You're going to see conversations about, you know, like, how can somebody afford to live? Like, what can somebody do? Slavery. Yeah, we could. I think that there's a good chance that we will, by a vote, bring back some form of slavery or indentured servitude. I think there's a very good chance of that happening. Now, I didn't originally believe this, but based off of like how things have gone in the past, like I'd say like 5 years, especially 2 years, I think it'll happen. Yeah, why? Because people are stupid and they want to be taken care of and they don't want uncertainty. And I think that people's fear of the unknown will be more important to them than their pursuit of liberty. And I think that they would be more than willing to throw away their freedom in order to be safe and to not have to worry about the future. That's what I think is going to happen. And I could be wrong. Oh, I could be wrong. But I don't think I am. Yeah, facts. I know. Switch Trump won, better future.
Начал
Yeah,
сильнее
and I
меня
think
этот
also
без блока.
when people believe
Блок не могу
a
пробить.
functional version of
Нормально.
slavery, and it's not really going to be slavery, right? But it'll be some version of that.
Поэтому здорово.
When they believe that that version is better than what their future is. You underestimate the hillbillies? I think that they underestimate what they're going to be like when they don't have any money. How do household AI servants and robots being slaves come into that theoretical scenario? People want human connection, and I think also the robots will do that, which is probably why there's also a good chance that, I don't know, I mean, you know what? I probably shouldn't even say that. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on. When this feudalism shit starts, can I be one of your vassals? Yeah, we are speed running into neo-feudalism. That's what's happening. And I think it's already started to happen now, but it will become more apparent in the future. Say it. Okay, well, I think that there's two ways to solve the problem, right? You can sterilize the majority of the population, or you can have them sterilize themselves by getting them all addicted to porn. You could also have half of the population kill the other half of the population with like a big world war. You could have a pandemic like COVID kill everybody, or at least like 80% of people. I feel like, yeah, there's like, those are the three pretty much main options of like how to do a massive depopulation effort. To like get rid of a lot of people that aren't really necessary. Yeah, for sure. Like that's what I would assume. When will this happen? I don't know, probably 20 years, maybe earlier. But I think it like really would black pill. Well, no, it's not black pill. It's just what could happen. Yeah. So I mean, clip it, clip it, and save it. Clip it and save it. I'll stop. I'll probably still be streaming in 20 years. See what happens.
Чё, теперь даже стол сильнее просто. Мои опции на участие. Мам.
Men are slowly giving up and nobody cares? That's not true. I gave up super fast. As soon as I realized I needed to have a job, I gave up. Yeah, 7 years old, I was like, I'm just not gonna make it, guys, sorry.
Increasingly, more and more men are giving up. Giving up on relationships, careers, and society as a whole. Resentment is growing.
This is why my stream is getting popular, by the way.
Unemployment is becoming rampant.
Yeah.
Keeping your head above water seems almost impossible for many men today.
Yeah.
This is leading to more men than ever dropping out of society entirely. And it's not just that. Men are becoming infantilized, with terms like adulting now becoming normal.
3 stages of adulting for men.
It's clear that something ugly is happening that needs to be addressed. We live in such a strained, unnatural environment that is bound to start to wear on society. But men in particular are battling to keep up and are slowly giving up. Giving up on dreams, giving up on trying, and giving up on doing anything constructive. And for a large part, it's really not their fault, as this trend isn't just a personal struggle, but a societal issue that we must urgently address. So why is this happening? And why has it gotten so bad in 2024?
It's gonna keep getting worse, by the way.
And
here's another reason why it's getting worse, is that in like 1950, if you were a dumb guy, you could be like, alright, well, I don't really know what state I live in or how to spell my name, but I can put a bolt in a car and I own a house. That's a big fucking difference.
On the surface,
huge
it's a long and
difference.
complicated story. Life has never been simple for any human, and objectively speaking, for men in the West today, it's never been better. We have all the technology we need, food delivered to your door with the tap of a finger, dating readily available to anyone with a simple swipe. Any products, items...
Well, it's not really readily available, right? I mean, because like if you're an ugly guy, you've got a really hard... it's hard for you to be able to meet anybody. I mean, I feel like that's definitely a factor. 100% a factor.
Or experiences that you want can be had with the tap of your phone. But over time, all of these comforts of life destroys the importance and necessity of struggle. Without any value placed on higher goals, where there just is no reason to care, means there's no reason...
Well, the reason why a lot of guys, I think, don't care is because they don't see a path to happiness and a path to success. Like, there's no longer the idea that you can work hard and you can be guaranteed success. And I think that that's really where people, like, you lose a lot of people. That's a massive factor.
For people to properly live or have the will to achieve greatness.
I think also, like, as a guy, it's probably, like, very demoralizing when you see opportunities for, like, I think it's ridiculous. Like, there's a lot of opportunities that are made, like, explicitly for women. And if you're a man, you just don't have access to that opportunity.
У меня было идеальное количество брони, но похуй, просто вот, просто на похуй. Ладно, 16, 1, 15, встреча, эти пробивают нас на похуй, потому что, блядь, просто пикап. Потому что всем раздают равную достаточности так, чтобы именно меня пробить и на похуй, блядь, это просто пиздец. Это просто пиздец. Просто какое же издевательство, необъяснимое. У меня просто сливается вторая игра на Набунда, блять, в дуо на 4К ММР. Блять, это просто пиздец. В дуо на 4К ММР, на 4К ММР. Блять, это просто пиздец. В то время как
you can't use the patriarchy as like a
Радио
reason to
рисует
like tell a
идеальный такой,
guy
да.
that this is the
Но
reason why
Бунда
you're a
для
loser.
100% мне нравится.
And I think
Просто
that's what
прекрасно.
really makes a lot of guys
И
mad, is
здесь
that
еще
they're
сильнее,
effectively,
блядь,
you're basically giving people
Просто
original sin.
прекрасно.
You're saying like, well, because your grandfather, your great-grandfather, you know, like whenever he grew up, he had advantages. Now, you know, we're going to treat you badly and act like those advantages still exist. And there's like that lingering resentment and animosity that is culturally acceptable, I think, in a lot of cases. And you can just look at Twitter and you can see how culturally acceptable it is. Even look at mainstream media, or like look at like, you know, daytime talk shows. That is extremely damaging to men's mental health. To be told that you constantly have all of these advantages and the world is handed to you whenever you exist in a world where opportunities categorically exclude you from existing.
Which is probably why 40% of young men aged 18 to 45 meet the criteria for depression, and 49% of 18 to 23-year-olds have had a thought of passing themselves in the past 2 weeks alone.
Hard really to say if that's comparable. I think that probably those numbers went up for women as well too. I think social media and the internet's brain rot for everybody, but you know, I think that for guys it also is bad. But like if you look at it from like, I don't think this is a male only problem. A lot of these issues are like meta level society issues that affect men and women. Obviously the way that you approach it for men is different, and you know, men and women have unique struggles. But I think also this is something, you know, a rising tide floats all boats, or a rising tide floats all toasters in a bathtub. Anyway,
we're seeing the symptoms of this problem everywhere. The sapping away of our vision and ambition permeates in all aspects of modern society today. Our culture, architecture, relationships, bodies and minds. Past civilizations before us have always placed their emphasis on beauty, wisdom and logic for all the population to see, with great town squares, bustling with art, life and community. These things were placed above all else as the bedrock of their societies, laying out a code of honor and struggle in its people to achieve greatness.
Просто дегенеры в нагло рисуют всем идеальные заходы, просто они уже все окна реализовывают на максимум, просто очевидные, подкрученные, просто ломаные, уже для всех просто, даже самый конченый даун, блядь, будет собирать створки сильнее, чем я, как самый лучший игрок. Ну, классно.
It's like an unironic, like, I think that we've become a little bit inferior to where we used to be. I do, absolutely. There is so much less of an emphasis, and like,
просто любой микрочел, который
gets you into so many fucking,
не подвязан под эту игру вообще,
like, you can trap yourself
под
by
математику,
thinking for
под логику и
yourself
так
because
далее,
you go
физическое
outside of
настроение.
the box that you're supposed to exist in.
Я сижу и терплю контроль дегенерами.
For following your mastery. But today our cities are mostly devoid of all of this character, and instead they're marked out by the most cost-efficient, bland and sterile designs to facilitate a simpler, self-motivated purpose. It's why people flock all over the world to a handful of remaining cities that retain their centuries-old charm to feel and experience the character of bygone societies that were motivated by higher ideals. Ideals greater than our modern two-dimensional ways of thinking, with a prioritization of comfort, lust and opulence, and flashy materialism over individual excellence and greater community. We're now reeling in the aftermath, becoming
I think it's that people have been divorced from being able to hope for anything better than what they already have. That's the real reason. Like, you see this all the time, like, because it's true that working hard will make you, like, working hard will increase the probability that you will be successful. But I think that, like, the reason why video games are so popular and so many young guys like video games is because video games provide a guarantee that if you grind and you work hard at something, you'll see a result. Whereas in real life, a lot of times that doesn't happen. I think that it's actually like, that's why young men are drawn to video games a lot. It's because they're an equal playing field in a way that nothing else in the world really provides them.
Still a generation of mandated mediocrity. And does this explain why men today seem to struggle more than ever while seemingly having more than ever? America in particular is not actually in a recession. In fact, on paper, the economy looks like the best it's been in a while. Unemployment has dropped, GDP is up, but what the people are actually experiencing is a completely different story. We can see this in a study by the University of Michigan on consumer sentiments, which gathers data based on how consumers feel about the current state of finances. In 2022, it dropped to an all-time low. prices of our average daily needs like gas and food have increased in unbearable percentages. In contrast,
the problem is that while the GDP has gone up by a tremendous amount, this is, you know, I'm gonna have a Bernie Sanders moment here, is that it's the 1% that is enjoying those privileges. And I think that a really good way to tell is that I remember looking up when, like, I first started, like, this is kind of like a weird thing to say, but, like, I remember somebody asked me, like, am I in the top 1% for, like, income earners? And I remember looking it up whenever my stream first got popular, and then I looked it up maybe last year, and the top 1% for income earners has gone up by, like, 30% in the last 5 years. So, like, the very, very wealthy are becoming increasingly more wealthy, and then the people in the middle are experiencing stagnation, and then the people who are poor are just basically like, I mean, who cares? Rich get richer. Yeah, exactly. COVID made the gap way worse. Yeah, and like there's obviously like very traditional, you know, like economic indicators like a Gini index or something like that. But I think that also like we can just simply go to the grocery store and like, you know, I'm like going through old receipts when I'm cleaning my house and I'm looking at like a 2011 receipt and like I buy a meal and it's $5.80. There it is, right? It's right in front of you.
Основной reason, почему я сюда отдельно поставил, в любом случае нету смысла на холоды до конца. И это еще и не работает туда. Просто заебись. Мало того, что я засрал себе место, это мне дегенераты будут реализовать.
Salary increases do not match, putting a high strain on budgets.
Inflation is showing no...
And this will also become increasingly more powerful when the, again, you know, maybe a Hassan moment, Bernie Sanders moment, where the means of production are consolidated by a small handful of people, and AI allows that, that control to maintain itself. Because AI will consolidate the means of production among fewer people. It's a really huge problem, and I wish more people would see it from like a macroeconomic level, but I think that it's really disappointing to see everybody that's like, everybody gets like really in the weeds about like identity politics and stuff. Because I feel like all of that, in my opinion, I think identity politics and the entire like all of the vitriol and animosity and discord that's created by identity politics, I think that it's done intentionally. This is a conspiracy, by the way. Might take another vacation for this. I think that it's done intentionally by elites and by the people who own mainstream media and by, you know, the people who basically are in charge in order to get people fighting with each other rather than fighting against the people that are oppressing them. I think it's no surprise that identity politics went up. Like, I mean, you can see, like, have you guys seen the charts of, like, the usage of the words, like, woke or usage of the words, like, intersectional or something like that? Like, a lot of these, like, you know, new age identity politics vocabulary. I think it's no coincidence that vocabulary started ramping up massively right after Occupy Wall Street. I just think that's a really interesting coincidence. What are the odds?
Signs of slowing down as Americans pay over $1,000 a month more on the same essentials we were buying 3 years ago. Nothing's changed but price. The latest consumer price index for March showing basic necessities like our food, housing, and gas are all continuing to cripple Americans' wallets with higher prices.
I can't imagine food only being up by 2%.
Our wages are actually down against inflation since Biden took office. So not only are prices soaring, but you know, our wages, at least if you measure hourly wages, are not keeping up at all.
Keeping your head above water has become the new normal instead of owning a home with a white picket fence.
My understanding is that 2/3 of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. I thought it was like 30%, and I found out it was in fact like double that. It's incredible.
Becoming richer.
That guy does look, you know who he looked like? You know in Firelink Shrine in Dark Souls 1? Cramped?
and the poor are becoming poorer, with the middle class disintegrating completely. All the knowledge of the past of just going to college, getting a job, and buying a home immediately is just completely irrelevant for anyone working and living in 2024. Universities are...
It's not irrelevant. People, like, I have a lot of friends, like, I'm 34, and I have a lot of friends. The majority of my friends that are the same age as me make over $100,000 a year, and this is not counting people that stream. These are like long-time real-life friends.
Skyrocketing prices to absurd levels. The housing market is in a complete giant bubble. Everyone's sending out job applications more and more, all while using these automated testing systems, applying up to 100 jobs a day and still not getting anywhere. All the while major companies repeatedly tell us that they can't find any workers for their companies. And
because the job prospect is terrible and people hate the job. That's the reason why. It's really simple. And also, I'm not saying that, like, it's not true, like, people don't have problems. All I'm saying is that there are a lot of people who still do make the American dream happen, but it's harder to do, and the barrier to entry for it is a lot higher. And I think that because the barrier to entry has gotten so high, it's become, it's not realistic. It's purely luck? No, it's not purely luck. That's not true. Like, I know a lot of people that I went to high school with that are losers. Well, they were losers because they were lazy and they fucked off in school and they were stupid. No, a lot of people are successful because they work hard. It's nepotism? No. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Not a single one of the people that I'm using as an example obtained their job through nepotism. Luck plays a factor with everything, but so does hard work.
Results of this are clear. People are drifting towards more unfulfilling jobs, or just not even having a job at all, while the rich buy up resources, real estate, and everything that used to be the cornerstones of the middle class, that is now just an investment hidden through an offshore bank account for some giant investment fund.
This is a crazy exploit. I'm surprised that they haven't patched this. Well, I guess not, because they are the ones that are probably writing the laws.
What they want to do is create a nation of renters. BlackRock coming in and giving them more money than the houses.
You'll own nothing and be happy.
How much more do they give them?
They can give them, 30% above. Really? Which is money.
And then they just lease those homes out.
And they lease them out. It's part of this idea that home ownership and automobile ownership and all of these things, these legacy systems that people want to get rid of. And they go, rent a house, use Uber, Lyft,
нормально нахуй, да, все нормально. Мне уже дегенеры настолько в мозг въедаются нахуй, что они на похуй уже хуярят нелинейно так, как мне хуярят. Это просто пиздец на 4К. В любом, все как я и говорю.
I was actually having a conversation with a friend of mine about this the other day. And he was talking to me, like, we were talking about, like, investments and stuff. And he's like, yeah, like, I want to invest, but I just don't really, I can't put aside a lot of money to do it. And it's like, it sucks because, like, you're basically on, like, the hamster wheel. And it's like, there's not really there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's why people just get off the wheel, get out of the tunnel, and then they go back into the basement, and then they withdraw from society.
This does begin a damaged path. People end up working in a job that's not in their field, something that they hate to do every day, and eliminates the experience they need for the job in their field. And so
this is something that happens a lot, where I think that most people that go out to get jobs, people look for jobs that they don't completely hate, but primarily I think that people go to college to get a job that makes more money. Most people have their jobs for money first and passion second, if that's even a factor.
From the experience they are getting, it's just completely useless for getting back on track. In effect, their now entry-level position is further deviating them from
Очень дорого, очень дорого, блядь.
And if the middle class is experiencing this, then the lower earners are feeling this even more. The jobs they once had a chance of landing now go to the middle class, while they get hit a bump lower, which is putting millions of people in dire straits. They face working twice as hard for minimum wage, juggling between jobs, partaking in the gig economy with absolutely no security, all with an extreme to keep up with daily expenses in a completely overpriced megacity.
Сейчас
And
не
the
должен
truth is, both
париться
middle
о
and
моей
lower
тайне.
earners are now taking a huge hit to their egos. They feel disrespected through no fault of their own. There's no
Ему в рот
It's because
кидает.
you live in a society that doesn't allow you to have self-respect.
Всё.
I think that this is one of the reasons why there's a lot of violence in America too. It's like a macro level problem, is that you basically, if you don't have, like, if you're not affluent to an extent, it's almost like you don't deserve respect in society.
Man wants to feel like a failure. They don't want to feel like they're not providing or on their destiny. Imagine putting in the hours and effort to get a degree and then
Like, you can look at it like this, right? Like, back when my dad was in high school, people would bring their shotguns to school, right? They would, like, leave them in the car. There weren't school shootings that were happening all the time. And I think that as the economy has gotten worse, and as people have lost the sense of community and culture, and as people have stopped being able to rely on and look forward to a future that's, like, good, then I think that you have that nihilism set in. And that's why I think that that's one of the, again, school shootings, there's 50 reasons why they happen, but I think that's at least a couple of them.
to take a job that's not even within the field you studied for. Well, this is just regular life for most people nowadays. It's making men feel incredibly depressed and isolated. They watch all this stuff on social media, they see people flexing the Rolexes on their Instagram stories. Meanwhile, they're struggling to survive, living a life they absolutely hate. And when friends and family ask about it, they suffer the humiliation of explaining why they had to take what was available. Even though it isn't humiliating at all, and they're doing what they can to survive, it definitely takes a huge effect on their mental health.
I think that, like, the conspicuous nature of things like streaming, for example, and also OnlyFans is also really damaging for people's mental health, because they see certain people that have opportunities and advantages that are sometimes unearned. Like, for example, like, if you're born a hot girl and you're able to do OnlyFans, you have a huge advantage in life, right? Especially early on. And obviously, if you're doing that, you're making $100K a month. This is a massive advantage that a 21-year-old guy is going to not really have. He's not going to have that. And so I think that the conspicuous nature of wealth inequality on social media really fucks with people's mental health.
Especially as it wasn't that long ago, where it was actually normal to
Мне приходится находиться в одной лодке с unimaginable мусором просто пиздец. Но которым мусору, которым хотя бы карта рисует. Которые могут играть в карту. У меня в роллах ничего нет.
Didn't seem so bad because there was an opportunity to grow and reap more rewards. But this imperative step is slowly slipping away. Companies of prestige have forgotten the generation with no experience. And for many companies, this is what they want. This is actually the ideal scenario, where they have people so desperate, so in need of experience, they can treat their workers like absolute trash.
Well, because the reason why they're being treated like trash is because they're only 3 years away from being replaced by a robot. That's the reason why. It's because they, like, the job is effectively like, it's like an Amazon warehouse. You used to pick up a box and put it somewhere else. Like, of course they're not going to give a shit about you.
Все нормально, нахуй просто.
In the 1980s, testosterone levels have dropped more than 50%.
Нормальные счета на 4К, ну нормально просто показывает в дуосах то, что мне показывалось соло. Абсолютно то же самое. Просто то же самое. Просто
That's actually a really good point. Like, it's weird because, like, so whenever I was on mandatory break, I was like exercising and like doing things physically like 4 to 6 hours a day because I was like cleaning up all the stuff in the house. I felt so much better. Straight up. Like, I immediately felt way fucking better. It is fat Jake Paul, it is. But like, no, I did. And it was like not even close.
Have been declining for decades, with a 17% drop among 60-year-olds in 2004 compared to 1987. Sperm count and strength in men are also decreasing exponentially, with a 32.5% decrease in mean sperm concentration in the last 50 years. But here's the good news. There are ways to fight back.
Бот слэш игрок просто на похуй кидает имитированно конченного бота, и под ним все игрока, и под ним все ломает роллы просто тотально. На похуй, просто на похуй.
Muscle growth, boost recovery, and support higher testosterone levels.
У всех, блять, вон, токи собирают 300 на 300 столы нормально, нормально.
I've been using black forests,
Я сижу,
Takestra and
терплю
Tomcat Alley, and I've
кучу
noticed a
антимайтов
huge
опять.
improvement in my energy, strength, and focus. It's like
Верим,
getting
то есть
back
у
in
меня,
modern
только у
life is
меня
just
самый
draining
худший
away.
тиммейт,
Right
да?
now, Black
Нормально.
Forest is offering a buy two, get one free deal
I
on
think
this.
supplements can be good.
Потому что я соло
I don't
должен
think that you
вывозить
should
такие
use
ложи.
supplements as a solution to
Но
problems
прекрасно,
without doing lab work first, personally.
просто на похуй
Like you should
твари
get
меня
your labs
блокируют
done and
какие-либо
have lab
возможности.
work done before you start.
Я просто
You know,
пушат,
like have a doctor
или
look at it
просто
and give you
пушат,
feedback.
просто на
But
похуй
after
пушат.
that, like you want to take a supplement, that's
Просто, ну,
totally fair.
типа,
I
нереальные
think a lot
столы
of
на
it
похуй.
is
Просто
a lack of
нереально
like a bad
издевательские
diet
столы,
and a
конкретизированные.
lack of physical
Просто на
activity.
похуй под меня.
I think that the human
Опять.
body is made to move.
Просто на
You're
похуй.
made to exist. You're made to live.
Very
And if
nice
you
просто.
live a life that is a contrived, like weird version of what an animal version of yourself would do, like you think about it, right? And like you look at like our evolutionary period, right? Like this is, you know, Cro-Magnon, this is 2024. Think about how much time period, what a tiny little fraction of like evolution that we've really had, where the expectation was not that you were physically moving around all the time. Do you really think that evolution changes that fast?
Переставали
Absolutely
просто
not.
правильно похуй. Ну, и, блядь,
Limited
это
edition
просто
product,
пиздец.
and once it's gone for good. I can personally vouch for its
Просто
effectiveness.
пиздец, то есть
It's had
всё
a huge
нормально, всё
difference in my
хорошо.
energy level, strength, sleep, and overall well-being. And by supporting our sponsors,
Я с
you
таким
also
уровнем
support us
игры
directly. So hurry and
сижу
take
на
advantage of
4К
this amazing
ММР
48-hour
в
promo
ДУСах,
and
в
support me
топ-2, в
alongside this amazing
топ-4.
brand using the link in the
Просто,
description
ну,
below.
нормально
The cost
всё,
of having a
нормально.
job also plays a part
Просто
in
на
stripping
похуй.
them of their dignity. Transport costs to their
Просто
job,
на
depending
похуй,
on the
твари
amount,
могут
can
делать,
take
что
a huge
хотят.
chunk of their salary. So that at the end
Yes,
of the
this is a
day,
really
they
big
can
factor.
only pay
Это
for rental,
пиздец.
food, and not both. A government grant could replace their salaries, and they earn more or less the same amount.
What's also helping to pay the bills is, as I said, the U.S. government, in particular,
Твари просто
our
наебут, творят, что хотят. Ну,
disability programs for
нормально.
people who are unable to work. Those programs seem to
Топ-4,
have
ну, да,
morphed
легкое.
away
Ну, на Бонду
from
хотели
their
мне топ-3
original
нарисовать.
humane intention, and now
Я
seem
наныл
to
на
provide
топ-2 на
an
Набунда на
alternative
4К.
income source
И дальше мне
to
рисуют на фейлине топ-4.
What's up?
Блять, это просто, блять, просто юмор ебаный.
Okay.
Очевидно.
Yeah, be careful. I fell down the stairs the other day.
Я просто...
Yeah. No, it's okay.
The steps, they're on the right proportion.
Let me get this shit off the thing.
I forgot to give you this last night.
Я и говорил, просто людишки, блять,
thanks. I appreciate that.
просто...
Look at that. We got the Reese's peanut butter cups.
Просто
How about
пиздец.
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Просто
Thank you
все
very much.
людишки
Yeah.
имеют
He's got the little,
просто
the
одни
ghosts and the
негативные
jack-o'-lanterns
качества.
and everything like that.
Yeah, and he was over
И
last
все больше и
night,
больше
too.
Yeah, we
негативных
watched
качеств.
Fury.
И
That was
просто,
really
просто
fucking good.
Yeah,
I
second
love that
half.
movie. Oh my god.
Ни один, похоже, остался
I'm
на
just
планете
watching
адекватным,
watching a movie. So like,
у которого нету
why do you think that guys
ни
don't
одного
wanna work
негативного
anymore?
качества.
Same reason guys never did. I
При
mean,
этом,
Well, like
Well,
now,
ну
like
окей, у меня
guys are like
есть
way more
негативные
depressed.
качества,
They feel
которые
like
легко
they're
исправить,
like they don't have like a future or anything like that. Like, why do you think that is?
и которые незначительны.
Because like my dad's 77, right? That's
I don't
crazy,
know.
right?
That's
Yeah.
your fucking generation. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Every, you know,
Единецкое
for,
издевательство.
I don't know, I guess my folks didn't want to make it easy on me.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to work. I had my first, you know, I had a time clock when I was 11 years old,
Oh, right. The safe shop?
fixing bike.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then, you know, I hustled money
Mm-hmm.
and had to take care of my brother and sister. And then I
Is
went
that,
to
is
work.
that finding a lot of bikes?
Used to, yeah, finding bikes and finding all kinds of shit.
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
you find a lot of stuff at 2 o'clock in the morning.
It's crazy,
And,
yeah.
yeah, just lying around.
It's something.
And sometimes it's too much to haul home, so you'd have to get a wagon too.
Well, that's why you got the bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you get a wagon.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The red one.
You know, yeah. Tie it behind the bike, drove it all home.
Nah, it's been a big thing. Like a lot of guys talk about it now because like you know, it's like you have a lot of opportunities, but like you can't, like there aren't jobs where it's like you just put the fender onto a Ford, you know, every day.
And plus, I mean, they just the way that like when I was doing the process engineering.
Oh, with Jim. Yeah.
Yeah, with Jim. Oh yeah, it was a great job. The two Bobs.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, we somebody or a couple of people lost their jobs because of that. And so, you know, and then...
Well, that was your job.
But yeah, it was to make them lose their job.
Yeah.
And that's after I retired, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And so they've just done away and then they took those people did work.
Uh-huh.
And so they put those jobs on somebody else.
Right.
So how many people you hear about that have got like...
Well, you were telling me about this with, because you were thinking about getting a part-time job at, just like 10 years ago, like at Home Depot.
Yeah, oh yeah. And now they got the guys doing the automatic stocking, and they can't, you know,
Просто стабильно дэмэдж получаем,
the
собственно, нормально.
manager's always on their ass.
То есть то, что мне рисуют на похуй,
You're supposed to process an ITIN request for in like 6 minutes.
We were to get a
явная невозможность
you had to
участия.
process 120 documents an hour.
Yeah. And some process engineer came in and figured
these are like W-2s or like 1040s, and it's like there's no way you can process 120 1040s in an hour without just like speed running it. Like if you actually read it, yeah.
Я вообще ничего скомбинить не могу, ничего нахуй, блять, просто... Ладно, скомбинить ничего не могу, просто настолько слабый стол, что сделать ничего нельзя, и даже понимать, что мне на похуй будут ставить и перерисовывать, и пушить на похуй, просто на похуй. Уже на 4К, на, сиди верь, блять, ты на 4К проигрываешь игры. На, сиди верь, ты на 4К в сухую проигрываешь игры, чел. Все нормально, все хорошо. Чел, все хорошо, все так и должно быть, на. Все правильно происходит. Играй, проигрывай игры, будучи профиком на 2К, на 4К без проблем. Пока челов, которые в кавычках профики, которых, блядь, выставили профиками, если они будут вот заниматься тем, чем я сейчас занимаюсь, в дуо играть, они с 6К будут единицы, блядь, ловить, 5К. До тех пор, пока их не запушат до того рейтинга, который у них будет соло. Просто на похуй. По аналогии, как если они создают аккаунт, им рисуют просто единицу на похуй. Подряд, без лузов. Просто на похуй. Ну просто...
Well, that's why people can't, like, a lot of companies complain because they can't get anybody to get a job anymore.
Твари ставят на то место, какое хотят. Меня очевидно ставят вот на то место, нахуй, потому что у них отношение ко мне очевидно. Я просто пиздата, нахуй. Просто мерзость.
And they separated $1 million, and this was in like 1984 or 5 or something.
So we're talking about like $7 million now, something like that.
Oh,
yeah,
probably, yeah,
5. No, it's nuts, yeah.
Probably. And for a non-compete clause for a year.
Yep.
So basically, what he did was he took some of that money and he went around and visited all of his friends. Schmoozed up, you know. And no, he couldn't do consulting.
Oh, it wasn't.
He just went and schmoozed, made all of his business connections, and then whammo was making more money than ever. And you know, it all gets pushed up the line.
В моих играх просто никогда неизвестно, что делать, блядь, потому что если я попытаюсь какой-то умный мув сделать, то мне твари сразу же еще его переутрируют, переломают во что-то плохое. Это рискованный тогда, да? Микрорискованный. Просто на похуй, ничего даже сделать нельзя. Просто фул залочен в мувах. Нормально. Просто заказ.
And we always did overtime, so I was like 55 hours a week on the clock.
Right, that's nuts.
And,
holy fuck.
Yeah. And I went to college besides that.
Yeah.
And I got drunked out of my ass every fucking night.
What is it? Yeah.
Got in fights, you know, that's when they went down, was down to ABC land.
Как мне ему передать о том,
I think I took you in there, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah.
Просто замечательно.
And I never saw your Uncle Gary look so small.
Oh, yeah? Is that right?
Oh, man, he just shrunk up at the bar.
Yeah? Oh.
Buddy of mine, Big John, pulls out, I forget what he called the knife. And he starts talking.
He had a name for it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like a woman's name?
Yeah, I think it was.
Right,
yes. but it might have been something like Bloodletter or something like some fucking name. And one day he ran out in front of the car when I was with your mom.
Yeah.
And he's like this huge guy.
Right, yeah.
And we were in the MG, so he could just about touch a windshield, just
right.
And she says, "Holy shit, what's this?" It was on Haynes Road, which is a pretty bad area. And I say, "Hey, John," He says, "Man, I haven't seen you for a long whole home week,
Yeah, of course.
But anyway, I used to work my ass off, but I was with my buddy Roy, who was my size.
Yeah.
We were both truck drivers, and we'd hump about 2 tons a day.
Yeah.
Humping that shit back and forth with the building supplies.
You're a truck driver?
Mostly the contractors.
Yeah.
Yeah, and delivering it, and there were no helpers.
Yeah.
There were no of these fucking fancy hernia belts.
Well, like they have those Chinese workers who have like exoskeletons now.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's
totally
crazy.
Cool. Boy, you know what the military must have.
Well, they have remember that movie Elysium?
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and there's another one too with some gal that's in the.
Right.
Yeah, I forget that one. Yeah, I didn't watch a good fucking Supergirl again. And that's the other thing, is we're just getting squashed.
Well, I was saying it's like every opportunity is for women. Like, it's like, oh, well, this is another way to get women. This is an opportunity for women. So, like, if you're a guy, it's like you're constantly, like, because, guys, like 100 years ago, 50 years ago, guys had a lot of advantages in life, right? I mean, for sure, right?
No, sure.
Well, of course. But, like, now, it's like if you're a 20-year-old guy, you've got a massive fucking disadvantage against a woman, right? And, like, I think it's evident by the, graduation rates for college.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
Colleges aim more at girls. It's a cooperative environment. It's like George Carlin's opposition of football and baseball.
Oh yeah.
Where baseball is a pastoral sport.
Yeah.
Football is a technological sport.
Of course.
And you run around to home and so that's the way it is. That's academia was wonderful.
Yeah.
You got giant pay for sitting around and just hanging out, talking about shit you feel like talking about.
Yeah.
But it was I couldn't get with the program because they were all the time trashing businesses.
Right.
And the corporations are paying most of the shit.
Of course.
Why do you think they named the business school after the 2 business schools here?
Yeah, McCombs and McCoys. Yeah. Who the fuck are McComb and McCoy? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're the biggest car dealers.
Yeah, what a surprise.
I don't know what it is with fucking car dealers, but they're making the big bucks.
Well, cars are expensive.
And also, like I said, with Roy,
yeah,
he was my buddy, and there was that,
the camaraderie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my boss was real good about building that up. And it's like Tetone's dad was talking about staying in the army for the camaraderie.
Yeah.
And it was great. It's with Comitatus.
Yeah.
Warrior band. And I grew up in that. I mean, I had women that were my friends.
Yeah.
And I would go and talk with them, but and then there was 2 women I would go with. There was the ones I went out on dates with, and there were the ones that I went out and I screwed.
Yeah.
We
right.
And everything went great until I fucked up with your mom. But
yeah.
What can I say?
What it is.
Yeah. So I ended up cleaning the house for 20 years.
Well, the house is pretty clean now, right?
I didn't get a chance to look at it. I just came in the door and came upstairs.
Yeah. Well, take a look.
But the picture would look good. I mean, better.
Yeah. No,
say better.
Well, we got to take that other stuff to Salvation Army, because like every box down there is spoken for in one way or another. Like it's going somewhere that's not in that room.
Well, Chad's back, and he's once working and.
Yeah, the other one.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah.
He can work on the weekends, but anyway, you lose all of that.
Yeah.
I read that 40. They did some kind of a poll. 40% of people who have jobs, jobs.
Yeah.
They want to be high influencers.
Oh yeah, everybody.
Oh yeah.
Well, I was saying this, right? It's like it fucks with people's mental health whenever they see like some idiot like me who's like making a bunch of money and I'm streaming, and then they're sitting there working at a job that they fucking hate. Yeah, absolutely, they're fucking mad. Like 100%. That's like, that hurts people's mental health.
And actually, it seems to act as kind of a motivator if there was more of an
ecosystem.
Just more openings for. But people are inventing shit all the time.
They do.
They got these. What do you call them? Podcasts.
Well, you have like the problem now is like if you're on the internet, like you have the opportunity to make money in a way that like other people never had. But it also like it took out like that bottom 30% of like intelligence/education people, and it's like, what are you gonna do with those people? And I think those are the ones that are getting like super disenfranchised, because like those like low end like manual labor, like relatively high to low skill jobs that like you just get better at over 30 years that you get a pension for, they're just gone.
And
yeah.
For years, the whole thing was, if you want your children to get ahead, you send them to college. Make sure they go to college and get a degree, and then they'll get a great paying job and all.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now, I mean, and so to make sure everybody got a job and that the professors got paid and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And running the whole deal. They just were running the classes just got dumber and dumber, and it was dumbed down classes, and I was considered a real dick, because I actually expected my students to pass this shit. And
yeah, my dad used to be a college professor, and he taught statistics and
statistics. Yeah,
people didn't like that.
Experimental methods in the behavioral research. I forget what the hell the course was, but it was a Skinner course, with the rat boxes where the rats press the bar and all that kind of shit.
Yep, the Skinner box.
And I got the only paid position on the campus, which was another way I scared up money. And but that was a great job, and everybody was kind of expecting my professors. I was, your mom and I both aced all our classes, and so they were expecting us to go into to academia. But the attitude was just. And it was too fucking liberal for me. I mean, not that I'm not a, I'm an independent.
Yeah.
And unlike him, I had to vote because I have so right to the bone, taught by my grandfather, to thoroughly hate, and I do thoroughly hate, have thoroughly hated Trump's guts ever since the 70s. And the video of him walking between the two, like RVs or whatever the fuck they are, and the guy's talking to him, and he's talking about putting his hand up some women's skirt. And I was thinking at the time, I don't watch that kind of shit during the day. I don't watch any TV during the day. Just watch it at night when I'm white, and I'm kind of very relaxed, And but I was at my barber shop or some fucking place, and that was on. That show was on in 1979. Back when your parents were in elementary school.
Well, that was another one. The Trump one was from like 2000 or the 90s.
That was a 1979 interview. I think. No, that one was later.
That was another instance of him being an asshole.
Yes, that was another one.
Yeah.
And that would explain it. Was probably over at Missy's. But I saw that the guy's a grown man, and I'm thinking, what are you, fucking 12 years old? I mean, what the hell is wrong with you? And and then now all these evangelicals are backing him, and I just tell them straight fucking out. If you're for Jesus, you can't be for Trump, or if you're for Trump, you can't be a Christian. I mean, how can you possibly be a Christian when you're backing the guy who's broken just about every fucking rule in your book? And he holds the Bible upside down when he's talking about it, and except when he's holding his own Bible, And you got to listen to the song at the end.
You know he had Trump Bible, right?
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, of course.
Talking about his Bible.
Right, yeah, Trump Bible.
His Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah, the real Bible.
Не надо мне это кидать, не надо, блядь, мне это говно, блядь, оно мне ничего не сыграет сама.
But the best part is the song for God Bless America with the Trump hitters. He plays at all his rallies. Oh my God. I mean, you know, riding around in a garbage truck, he belongs in the fucking back. You know, and if they can possibly compost that bloated.
We're not gonna. I don't want to get another suspension after the third assassination attempt. But that's that's what I thought too, but I got in trouble.
No, that was a cultural thing.
Okay.
And I told you not to say that.
You did. You
specifically
said,
not to say that.
You did. You said being an asshole. Yep, for sure.
And I said, don't say that another culture is inferior. Well, it's still what it is.
Okay.
And you know, Sociology 101. Back in 1966, it's not like this is a new concept. You know, and Jesus.
Okay.
And the fact is, you know, they want to live like that, or you know,
who gives a fuck?
It's like the African dudes that put the tires around somebody's head, pouring gasoline and set it on fire. You want to do that?
Have fun.
Hey, have at it. Just don't come here.
Yeah, sounds good.
And I mean, you know, try to imagine too. You know, Palestinian one. Try to imagine if a bunch of Canadians, or even Mexicans, well, that happened before. Mexicans did make raids across the border with Pancho Villa.
Yeah.
And so they say Blackjack Pershing, you know, badass dude, kick-ass World War I. But this is before that. Down there, and they just had a slaughter fest of these poor Mexicans that they lived and pissed off Mexicans. I would be really pissed off.
Yeah.
Because it was their country.
It was.
But, you know, hey.
That's what happens.
That's the American way.
Manifest destiny.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it's just, you know, snatch and grab, you know? I mean, that's the way it goes.
Well, look, I gotta get back to it. Anyway, thanks for bringing this over. I'll take you down real quick, and if you guys give me just a couple of minutes, I want to show my dad some of the stuff I did in the house because he hasn't been over.
And hey, you guys, and greetings. Always appreciate all the good things you say when I come on here. I mean, it's always amazing when I call in. So thank you again, and I'll see you around.
All right, give just a couple minutes, guys. Do you still want to do that thing later on today? Okay.
Regular employment for several millions, for millions and millions of these guys.
If a job doesn't support your basic needs of a home, food, and transport, it wears thin in justifying the effort for this job.
Yeah, why
especially
do
if
it?
you're not getting any experience. And in most cases, if you go into the gig economy, absolutely no security either. All for minimum wage. There's even a new term called quietly quitting, where you do the bare minimum of your job to the point that you're almost rendered useless and you get fired or simply quit. The fact that this term even exists shows that attention is desperately needed to solve this problem. And while this is happening, it's becoming more and more common for both partners in a household to be living the same life, or even with most male partners actually being the breadwinner. And whilst this isn't necessarily a problem at all, it is leading to some weird modern problems in the household. Men with families are actually switching their roles with their wives, except they're not actually doing what their wives would do if they were to stay at home.
They're just doing nothing, sitting around playing video games. How about that? It's pretty good.
When you look at what I guess in Britain is called NEET, N-E-E-T, do you say that also?
Yeah, that's the way you say it.
So in Australia, neither employed nor in education or training. When you look at that huge group of well over 6 million prime age men, the story they're telling about their lives is really pretty devastating. It's pretty distressing. They basically don't do civil society. There's almost no worship, almost no volunteering, almost no charitable work. They've got a lot of time on their hands, but they report doing strangely little help around the home or help with other people at home.
Because of the situation.
Well, because fuck them, you're going to play video games all day. What do you want to help them with anything for? Like, fuck society. I just want to play games. It's that simple.
Some men may feel a sense of worthlessness and resentment. Some men might take an hour to clean up the house and fetch the kids, but the rest of the day they sleep or play games. In some cases, the wives work and then come home to finish the chores their husbands were meant to do but didn't. And whilst this might cause huge marriage problems, it still feels better off to the husbands. If asked what they do for a living, saying they're on a break or working on a project beats the humiliation of saying they work in McDonald's with a useless degree on their back. Men without families have nothing to lose, so they stop working because no woman would even want them anyway. They can't afford.
This is the problem too, is like if you're a dude and you're broke, like that's a massive fucking debuff. That's a crazy debuff. That's bad. And also because like usually women want to date guys that make as much money as they do or more, right? This is just like, you know, cultural type thing. So yeah.
To date, they can't afford a family, and since their own families are supportive, it somehow justifies them giving up and staying at home, rather than facing these societal problems head on. With prices rising, getting hired becoming harder and harder by the day, and inequality becoming rampant within society, most men are just deciding to give up, because instead of facing the hardships of having a job, it just seems so much easier to escape. Whether it be tamely being online, playing video games all day, or hiding behind doing chores at home to show they still have a purpose and are doing their best. The point being that for many men in 2024, if they're gonna be disrespected and feel worthless, they may as well choose the easy way out than a battle. If respect—
Fucking obviously, if you divorce a person from any sense of self-respect, you take away any sense of like feeling good about what you're doing with yourself, and you're just having that happen, yes, they're gonna completely lose motivation to do anything with their life.
Had a currency on how it would affect your life directly,
why would they?
You would see a different picture. A man with a job with high pressure, long hours, and doing something that makes him feel degraded would be worth, say, $100, but staying at home, playing games, and escaping, all while being with the people he loves, is probably worth $200.
That's right.
It affects him. This explains why more and more men are deciding to drop out of society rather than face it head on, as it just seems to be the easier path.
Well, it's because if you're a guy, like how many of you guys feel like shit's rigged against you? Like, I feel like in a lot of cases, like as a young guy, like you've got things rigged against you. Yeah, absolutely. So why try? Why play a game that is rigged? Fuck that. Have you ever been in this position yourself? Yeah, of course. My perspective was always that I would get by doing anything I wanted. I never felt bad for doing anything, because I didn't ask to exist in society, and if I don't, like, I don't know, I just never really thought about it, to be honest. I never really, like, considered it. So yeah, I would just do anything that I wanted or anything that I could to make money, and it was no issue. It's a loser mentality. It is a loser mentality for sure. It's a bad mentality to have. But I think also, like, it's easier to get that mentality nowadays, for sure.
It's a choice between two paths, one that offers little satisfaction while the other provides comfort. It's easy to see why men are going this route. But the thing is, this is a terrible mistake. And this is creating problems that we've never seen before. If there is no emphasis or any facilitation of the need to aspire to something greater and the game seems rigged to most who are playing it, it's hardly a surprise record numbers of men are dropping out and giving up on the game entirely.
That's right.
The problem is that there's a huge group of men, roughly about—
Masturbate to anime girls and play video games. That's all you do.
7 million in America between the ages of 25 and 55 who are not working.
This is also a really important component when unemployment is being discussed, is that a lot of unemployment figures are created and like basically sourced in a way that they intentionally remove people that are not actively looking for a job. But like if you look at like basically it's like true unemployment versus like statistical like unemployment. Huge factor.
and are actively not looking for work. Now, COVID certainly had a hand in accelerating these figures. One question posed to these dropouts was how many of these men were on pain medication, and almost half of these men admitted to taking pain medication daily. And aside from those who desperately need it, these figures could indicate that men are aimlessly numbing themselves to their new reality. And this is great for society as people don't have to deal with this huge problem. And what's even—
I think another big reason why people are on a lot of pain medication too is because there's no physical activity. And I think that a body that's not moving and being physically active on a regular basis develops different types of disorders and problems that result in pain. I think that's what happens.
More shocking is that 40% of these men do have some kind of degree.
What sort of men are in this group? Demographically, education, family structure, ethnicity, who makes up this group?
Yeah.
Surprisingly large, we say, representation of guys with college or even college degrees. 40% of this group has at least some college, and as I recall, about a fifth or a sixth are college grads.
The decision to be in this state is closely related to changing times. We've already discussed the effects of brain rot in another upload, which disabled problem solving in Generation Z and has already presented problems in finding jobs. They are quick to quit at the first
kids now are dumb.
And move on to find something else.
Gen Z considers themselves job hoppers, study says. Yeah, that's because there's no sense of loyalty to a job. And the reason why younger people aren't loyal to jobs is because jobs aren't loyal to them. It's reciprocation, really.
But what happens when options run dry and they find themselves simply stuck in limbo? Giving up seems to be the next step, and accepting that is easy when they're discouraged by the situation. Working off of surveys, the data compiled indicates that these men are not only not working, but they're cutting themselves off from their communities, or there's no incentivization for them to even have any community in the first place. They're hiding out because—
the sense of community is created by social status. So, like, why do you want to be part of a community when your social status is very low? Like, you're basically, like, signing up to be at the bottom of the totem pole. Why would you want to do that?
Going out would mean meeting new people who might oppose their lifestyles. It makes it uncomfortable. Why leave when you can just aimlessly watch brain rot content and numb yourself with weed or pain medication and stay inside in the warm comfort of home? And any sexual needs you have can be satisfied with pixels on a screen. This lifestyle is increasingly becoming more and more normal for men in the West.
Yeah. My mail on it, yeah.
But what's important to note is that men don't want to be this way. It's a horrible lifestyle, it's depressing, it's atomizing. What this really is just a coping mechanism or a form of self-defense against a society that's becoming increasingly hostile to these men. Up until recently, the problem has been invisible. These figures weren't shown in any statistics or surveys because they slipped through the cracks until very recently. So why did they slip through the cracks? Well, it's easy to see. They simply don't fit the victim criteria. Some have degrees, they're in the prime of their lives, and it was their choice to quit. It's easily overlooked and only comes to light as the numbers rise. Nicholas Upstart wrote a book called Men Without Work, and has since exposed and addressed the problems in his book.
That's nuts. God damn, look at all that. That's like a double.
Book. He says he is trained to look for hidden in plain sight problems, which is how he stumbled upon this issue. You see, these men are not causing trouble, at least for now, and they don't seem to be drawing any attention to themselves. On the contrary, they keep to themselves. So surveys and statistics just don't include them at all. They don't even register on the scale, and people in society think this is a joke issue. And it's also reasonable.
That's another big issue too, is that it's socially acceptable to shit on guys for not being successful in culture. And I think that, like, there aren't really the same sort of support groups and support networks that men have compared to women. And I think also another big issue is that the support groups that exist for men are oftentimes more toxic than the people that are pushing them out of it. Where it's like the support group is something like Andrew Tate or some like weird crypto thing or like some like stupid like red pill like weird like worldview. And so yeah, I think that's the issue. Alpha male boot camp.
Include that some of these men may work but in the underground economy, work like formal cash jobs or even shady legal ways of making money. But of course, this is just a minor portion of these men. We need to address the problem head on. How is the situation getting this bad? These men have completely lost their purpose in life. All of their duty, their hopes, their responsibilities, their own dignity and value. It's being completely decimated at the moment. And we're seeing this with the...
I think that it's not going to come back. I think this is going to keep getting worse. And right now, like, this is, I think it will get more than twice as bad as it is now.
born of radicalization online, growing hatred and division, and a general apathy towards society as a whole. And the longer this is ignored, the harder it's going to be addressed down the line. More men today than ever feel disconnected, disillusioned, and left behind by a world that seems increasingly indifferent to their struggles. While GDP numbers...
Well, it's because they can't get a girlfriend. It's pretty fucking simple. And they can't get a girlfriend because they're losers. It's really just that, like, I mean, that's a huge fucking factor. You can't act like it's not. And, like, the thing is that it's a vicious cycle, says you.
Опять Оргпод, когда заходил, и Кира, как ее зовут, я забыл, Мира. У них, блядь, рейтинг был 5000. При этом еще никто не понимали, зачем.
Fucking duh, obviously, I'm the expert. Like, I'm the guy they bring in. It's like, you know, there's an interview, and it's about, like, the history of cheese, and they bring in, like, a 53-year-old man who's balding with glasses, and it says, like, Dale Hubman, cheese expert, okay? Like, I'm the fucking incel expert. I've got the exodia of incels. No personal hygiene, balding, living at my mom's house, no job, fucking, like watching anime all the time. Yeah, I am the incel exodia.
Employment stats may sound like an easy, good solution on paper, especially to government bureaucracies. It will never really fix the reality of the situation for normal people. The real challenge we face today in the West is to find purpose and meaning again, to have any reason to even want to participate and achieve greatness in society.
Yeah.
We should focus on creating environments where people can thrive, where beauty, philosophy, and higher noble pursuits are actively encouraged by the cities and countries that we inhabit, which would give millions of men a reason to care again.
Not going to happen. It's just going to keep getting worse, I think. That's my perspective. I think it's just going to keep getting worse, and it's... The reason why is that, like, intelligent men and guys that are smart have more opportunities now than ever, but guys that don't have as many of those opportunities and aren't smart and very hardworking naturally, they have way less. Because, like, now, like, if you're kind of like, let's say, people, like, everybody's a different height, right? Some of you guys are 6 feet tall, some of you guys are 5'6", right? And so, biologically, I think intelligence is like a mix. You can, like, basically, it's like playing Sparking Zero, right? You can be really good at playing Dr. Satan or Mr. Satan, but you're still going to lose to somebody who's average at playing Ultimate Instinct Goku. That's just the way it is. And so, like, you've got to work a lot harder. And so all of the Mr. Satans and all of the, Master Roshis out there, they're not able to rank up anymore. They're not able to do anything because those brackets aren't giving you any points. Yeah, the Yamchas, exactly. And I'm just being real. And so that's what's happening, is that people that are down
Смотрите,
on
в
those
каком я
levels,
топе
they don't know
буду.
what the hell
Вот,
to do.
здесь невозможно найти
Because, like,
цвет,
they can't go and
в
get a
моем
job
случае.
like their grandfather did. They
Да,
can't go
глаза
and do
болят
that.
нахуй ужасно.
And,
155.
what are they going to do with their life? I have no idea. How
Нормально.
much of this is the fault of the family and the
Но
parents?
проблема
I
в
think
том,
it's
что челам дают
absolutely a huge
цвета
fault of
нормальные
the
и
family and the
понятные.
parents. I actually think that it is and this is a really contentious topic. Let me link you guys to the video because this is a great video. Make sure to give it a like. This is amazing. I wanted to watch it like for 2 weeks. I was like banned. I didn't get a chance to. I think that there is a lack of spiritualism, and the way that spiritualism reinforces a sense of belonging inside of a society, and that lack of spiritualism has caused people to divorce themselves from any degree of accountability to anything greater than themselves. It's basically been like hedonism on steroids. And I think that's what's happened a lot. And obviously, like, and that's why you see a lot of guys, I think right now, like, this is like, maybe I'm like talking out of my ass. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're seeing it the same way I am. I think this is why you see a lot of young guys, especially with Islam, but also with Christianity, going back to religion. Is because, like, I think that religion and having some sort of, like, foundational ideal system it's almost like a lot of those old Abrahamic religions are in a lot of ways. I had a friend of mine that was like, religious, tell me, are like almost like the antidote for like modern politics and modern life. And I think that's why you see a lot of men now that are like going back to Islam, right? They're going back to Christianity. They're thinking about it. El take? No, I don't think it's an el take. I think this is an observation. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm saying this is the observation, and I think that's why the behavior is occurring. Maybe you don't think that it's occurring. I think that it is. So yeah. I've considered it. Yeah, no doubt. Korean Jesus died for your sins. Koreans actually recently had a big protest against gay marriage. Because I just heard Japan ratified gay marriage based off of their Supreme Court. Incredible, great, good for them, awesome. But yeah, Korea is still, still trying to fight against it. But Korea is, in my understanding, is a lot more religious. So yeah, Koreans are running, right? Yeah, something like that. Since a community and aid to fellow people will draw in more people to religion, yes, exactly. And I think that people are missing that, and they look to find that in religion. And I think that religion is baked into the culture. Like, religion and culture, I think, are like one and the same, right? It's not like the exact same, but there is one informs the other, and I think also vice versa. So yeah.
Ебать.
Ты дропнул сталкер? Ну, не знаю, скорее всего, да, но может быть еще врублю. Ну, я не смогу эту игру до конца проходить и убивать эти 1000 мобов в дурацком сеттинге таком, нереалистичном. Это слишком душно. Мне прошлого стрима хватило, как я стоял по колено в болоте и кабанов резал. Это бред какой-то. И как обычно чушь говорят всякого, ты дробовик на них попробуй. Я в начале игры дробовик использовал, не работает, так же самое на этих монстров. Сделали игру по-дебильному. Бежать тебя упырь-кровосос. От того, что на тебе надета броня, ты, видите ли, можешь дотанковать. Это просто как дебил стоишь. Вы помните, я зарезал упыря-кровососа ножом. Я многих зарезал ножом.
Устали смотреть YouTube с лагами? С VPN. Быстрый и доступный VPN-сервис. Пробный период на 3 дня. Подключайтесь по ссылке в описании.
Упырей-кровососов. Уже даже на прошлом стриме. Потому что я могу в броне своей танковать бесконечно. Так вот, аптечкой. Спамить сейвы. Потом лот. Ну, загрузился. Ебалом пробивать. Чё за бред? Почему нельзя сделать адекватно? Каким образом меня вообще броня моя, вот нагрудник мой, защищает от этого упыря-кровососа? Что я вот стал настолько танковый, если в начале игры он меня убивал с 2 тычек, то потом я его ножом могу зарезать вплотную, он ничего не может сделать мне. Каким образом я стал настолько сильнее? Игра такая дебильная, просто с ножом заставляет уже драться тебя. Огнестрел просто в ней есть.
Странный сайт.
I went into season 2 of Squid Game with pretty low expectations. I was just expecting a lazy cash grab, but it's kind of late for that since it's been 3 years since the first season became a global sensation. And with the way the world moves these days, 3 years may as well be prehistoric. Point is, though, I expected it to just be bad. But it's not. It is actually good. Now, I do need to spoil a little something here. There's no Jim Wool, which is a damn shame. That's a big missed opportunity because Jim Wool is almost synonymous with Squid Game at this point. He is a natural disaster, the devil himself in the Roblox Squid Game circuit, and I really thought that they would tip their hat to Jim Wool in Season 2 here, but they did not. What they did do, though, is not just do the same thing again, which is what I expected. What I really thought Season 2 would be is they just do nothing but games. The same games and then maybe some new games. I just thought it'd just be nothing but games out the wazoo like we're playing fucking Mario Party. But it's not, which was a pleasant surprise. There is a huge emphasis on games. Pretty much anytime some big moment happens, it's part of a game. Like even when it's them hunting the recruiter down, it ends in a game. So,
Какие там должны... Вон, блядь, какие он учел пролы, что они все роллы съедают и еще и думают, блядь, передай передать. С передачкой за 3 мана.
That was nice. I once again expected them just to do the greatest hits again. Now that's what I call Squid Game Volume 2, basically. Fucking Kids Bop Squid Game
Просто на уровне новичка.
Rodeo. They didn't. That's nice.
Он уже чел на уровне новичка мувы делает, и не вытянул. Я ничего делать не могу. И при этом показывает других ботов с идеальными рисовками или раздача челом просто идеально, которые сделать ничего физически не могу, будучи профессионалом против новичков. Тем более против челов, которые что-то знают.
I do think Season 2 here is good, very good, even. I went into it expecting it to kind of be
минимальную базу знают.
Nope, not the case. So, Season 2 is much more of like almost a revenge action show than it is a show about survival by any means necessary through these depraved games. Here, we now see a very different Gi-hun, who, I still don't know if I'm saying that name right. I don't remember if it's Ji-hun or Gi-hun. I'm not entirely sure. Sorry if I butchered the pronunciation. But we see him in a totally different way. He even has his own John Wick arsenal. He is using that money that he won, every fucking penny of it, to try and track down the recruiter so he can go to the games and tear it to pieces. Shut it down for good. He no longer has the red hair that we saw at the end of Season 1. I suppose the director said, all right, I was playing a bit of a goof on you. We'll get serious again. So that goes away within the first, 3 minutes of Episode 1. And we see that he has spent the last 3 years training with the sole focus of stopping these games. So he's really good with guns now, and he is like a very confident leader. So he has people that are searching every subway station every day for 2 years during the summer, looking for the recruiter, and he has this network and even gets connections to some military people that will help him try and stop these games. And it's a really cool evolution of the character from Season 1 that feels pretty natural with all the trauma he went through and everything that he experienced. Him being kind of just broken but so focused on taking that anger out on the people that caused it is just a really compelling and natural evolution of what we saw from Season 1. And the villain here, the front man that we knew from Season 1, is so good. He is the perfect counter to our hero. And he plays with that, saying so you want to play the hero, I'll show you the consequences, and boy howdy does he ever. I'm not going to get into spoilers for this one. This one is way too fresh to get into spoilers, but I do have a couple of complaints that I won't be able to dive too deep into in a moment. But I do think, on the whole, this was much better than I expected and just a really solid Season 2 for something that I thought shouldn't have even had a Season 2 in the first place. Usually when you have a show like Squid Game, I feel like it's best left as just that, glorious triumph in the moment that it was, instead of trying to overstay its welcome, extending it to a Season 2 just because it was popular. It's always lackluster when that happens. In this case, though, I really think it was handled well. It seems very self-aware in what people expected for Season 2, and it gives you that, and then some. So, the iconic red light, green light, that's the first game. So, the show brings you in with the same game, making you think, oh, he's just going to be playing the same shit again. And it even has similar characters that were introduced in Season 1. We have characters that are very close to them in Season 2, but they go in very different directions and serve a very different purpose. So it's a nice spin on character traits that we saw in Season 1 and got fed a bit in Season 2 that drastically change in the direction they go. For example, one of Ji-hun's friends is in this game again, but not the same kind of friend we saw in Season 1. The next thing I want to mention that might be a big spoiler, but I don't think it is because I'm pretty sure it's in the trailers, but just in case there's a spoiler warning. Do you remember how in Season 1 the big twist was that the old man that was with Ji-hun for most of the games was actually the man behind the curtain the whole time, the fucking puppet master that put all the games together? Well, Season 2 knows that people are expecting some kind of twist like that, and they play with that expectation by putting the front man in the same position the old man was. But they let you know right away that it's the front man, because we saw him in Season 1, and in the very first game, we get to see the front man come into the fold. He's playing the game, and we know that he is the big bad, but nobody in the game does. Ji-hun doesn't know. So that's a really fun way of spinning this, where now the viewer knows who this is, but nobody else does. So you're going through these games, and you are watching him participate, and he's playing the games legit. He's not cheating or doing anything shady or underhanded where he's like going off screen and somehow miraculously survives, like we saw in Season 1 with the old man. He is like even desperate to survive in some of them. Like, I don't want to get into spoilers on how some of the games go or just spoil what some of the games are, but it really seems like he was putting his life on the line, and that's kind of a theme that they drove home within the very first episode with the recruiter, where the recruiter plays Russian roulette with Ji-hun, and they play by the rules. No cheating, nothing that's going to get them VAC banned, no manipulation or underhanded shady tactics, just all textbook, by the book, rule following, which I think is just really cool and helps to flesh out the theme of the season even more so. So I thought they executed that really well. Now let's get into some of the things I didn't like all that much. Some of the games I just didn't think were that interesting. In the first season, I don't think all the games were hits either. There was definitely some shits. Like they weren't all slam dunks. There were some misses. But here, I felt like some of them were just kind of throwaway, as if the stakes weren't even really there. The second game, for example, there is like this big shocking moment where it's not the same game that we saw in Season 1, but the game that replaced it was just like a mishmash of 5 different small games put together, basically like little party trick games almost, and it just didn't even feel that tense. I didn't get the same feeling watching that, where it's like, oh, the characters are in real peril now. This is going to be a super hard one to accomplish, where there's actual dread on all of the characters for even seeing this game and having to play in it. I just didn't get that, really. The game that followed it, I thought, was better. It was definitely a lot more intense. It was able to build a lot more tension and keep things like fucking, chaotic. But it just felt like the games in Season 2 played almost too much of a background role. I was hoping it wouldn't be the sole focus of Season 2 where it's just the games, but I'm pretty surprised at just how little the games actually play a role in Season 2. It's not a focal point, honestly, which I think is going to be disappointing to a lot of people who just like Squid Game for that, the death games. Season 2 has much more of an emphasis on just plain old simple action. Just some lead spraying, some fights, fucking, it's just more action and more about revenge and trying to stop the games by any means necessary. And that usually comes in the form of a firefight. So the games don't play a huge role here. The next thing I didn't really like is there's an entire subplot with that team that Ji-hun puts together, where they are constantly trying to find where he's been taken. And every time it cuts to them, it's like useless. It feels like we're just watching filler because they're not getting any closer to finding him. They're just constantly on this wild goose chase and nothing's really getting accomplished there at all. Now, it does set up a very interesting character that we get introduced to in Season 2 that has some very... it's going to be a spoiler if I get too deep into it. They introduce a character that is clearly going to play a big role in Season 3. That's another thing. Season 2 is basically just a setup for Season 3. I mean, it's more than that, obviously, but everything in Season 2 is building for Season 3. So there is a character that's introduced here in that side plot that is doing some real fishy shit that is definitely going to play a big role in the next part. But just, I can only talk about part 2 because that's what's out. Anytime it cut to them, it was just boring. They were not accomplishing anything at all. It just felt like wasted time. I can pretty much summarize an hour's worth of that side plot with just a few sentences. We need to check this island. This might be where the games are being played. Alright, we checked the island. No good. We'll cross that one off and check the next one. Then they get to the next island. Jeepers, it wasn't that island either. Let's check the next one. That is everything that happens every time they're on screen without fail, and it doesn't really get deeper than that, except for that one character I mentioned that starts to do some more things that are clearly going to be a big deal later on. But as of now, they're not. It's just, try another, try another, try another. Eventually we'll find the island. Try another. And they just go on this deep sea adventure, just going to fucking island after island after island to no avail. So it's just... feels just really useless. The other thing I also just didn't like, and this is less about the actual content of Season 2 and more so just this trend with dividing things into parts. Since this is clearly part 1 of 2 parts where Season 2 is really a lot of setup for Season 3, there are just so many things in here and so many characters that feel highly underutilized with no actual point that they get to in this show that feels like it fits. So they introduce one of the shooters for the Squid Game. We get to see from their perspective, someone who actually kills the contestants in there. We get to see a little about them outside of the game and inside of the game and the things they go through, which is a cool concept and something that's a fun thing to explore because you get to see a different side of it. Even though you did get to see a lot of it in Season 1, this is now seeing it from someone who is actively killing the people in the game. And that character, we do learn a little bit about, not a ton, but we get a bit, and we see that they're going through some shit while doing this job, but the character doesn't really do anything in the season. It's just, we get like glimpses of a different perspective every now and then. But there's nothing narratively that we get from the character that pushes anything forward or really changes anything. It feels like it's clearly going to matter a lot in Season 3, but that's what I'm talking about. When you're just breaking something up into parts, you get things that are half-baked like that. And that just always kind of bothers me a bit. I'm really getting tired of the trend of breaking things in half because then you only get half of like the whole package that you need to now wait X amount of time for, probably like a year. It just feels disjointed. I'm getting really over that trend. I'd rather just wait for the whole thing to come out. Because usually when you do a season, you know, like a full season, things wrap themselves up and storylines reach some level of closure. Of course, they don't need to be fully finished by any means if you're going for more seasons that are planned. Like, I think Game of Thrones always did a good job before, of course, it absolutely shit the bed with Season 7 and 8. But it always did a good job of a whole season feeling like, oh, you got a whole complete package that is going to have more going forward. Whereas in a case like this, you just feel like you got half of the package, and you have to wait for the next one to get the whole thing. So that's just starting to bother me a little bit. That's not even like exclusive to Squid Game Season 2 or anything, but you know, it is just getting to be a bit of a nuisance. Like House of the Dragon is the most egregious example where the most recent season is actually just putting chess pieces on the board and not using them. You have to wait for the next season for those pieces to do anything. So fucking like nothing really moves in Season 2 at all. And it's not nearly as bad in Squid Game Season 2 by any means, but there is just obvious things that are just setup pieces that don't actually contribute anything in this season, but will in the next. So it just, again, feels half-baked at the moment. But I know when the whole thing is out, we're going to see the whole vision for it and the role they play. But overall, I do think Season 2 was very solid. Much better than I expected it to be. So I definitely do think it's worth watching, and I'm really looking forward to the final season of Squid Game. Assuming, of course, Season 3 is the final season. They might just milk this cow for many, many moons to come. There's probably going to be tons of spin-offs. There's already been one spin-off, too. So they already are showing a track record of having Squid Game as like a flagship IP, but I have to imagine this next season will probably be the last one. I don't even know how they could stretch it further. But anyway, I thought it was good. That's about it. See ya.
Эмоциональная поддержка бесплатна.
Так, сержант, твои существа на тебя рассчитывают.
Охуенно просто. Охуенно. А, блять, какой пригод?
The sponsored thing is just called Lawnmower. With a lawnmower emoji. Yeah, Roblox is a pretty wild universe over here. Yeah, so I like Squid Game a lot, and Andrew and I were talking about Squid Game. He's like, have you played the Roblox game? Obviously the answer should have been an assumed no. And he was telling me about a Roblox Squid Game. So I was like, fuck it, I'll check it out. This has a 19% update. Did you develop this one or something? Is that why you want me to play it? And they all use the exact same goddamn thumbnail. This is baffling. This is just nothing but pure piracy and plagiarism. Didn't I play this in the browser like 5 years ago? With the whole Brick Boys conspiracy? This is exciting. I hope it's just like Squid Game. Ah, the gang's all here. How do I move? Oh, WASD. Thought it was mouse clicks. I haven't played this in a long time.
Plus.
Top wins. I'm a gamer 1619. Yep, that sounds like Roblox. Alright, 85 wins is the number to beat. I'm ready. Kids are spending $310 on items in Roblox. That's such a specific number. We're $310 on what? My god, this is the third countdown in a row. I'm ready. Just let me play. I'm trying to ruin some kids' nights. I will be the ultimate Squid God gamer. Let's go! Is there a sprint button in this game? Easy. Oh! That kid just died! I'm too nutty. It's all about pacing your... Spider-Man just took... How did Spider-Man not die? That man did a full 360... He's still turning! They need to recalibrate this motion detector. This is an easy game. This is a fucking baby game. Let's go! It's easy. No!
Идеальный сетап, блять, на Эmerald у меня. Идеальный нахуй. Просто выбить. А, мне даже Дракари не дали. Засейвить, который мне нужен был. Я хотел сказать про Дракари, блять, мне его даже не дали засейвить. Охуенно. Просто мне ничего не дали сделать.
Hope all you kids got your mom's credit card ready to send me some money. Because I'm gonna win this bitch. Oh, Jesus. They're dropping like flies out here. What's happening? Oh, I see.
Нормально, нормально. Ну, нормально.
I have to
нахуй.
walk across this.
Нормально, просто, ну, просто по директории хуярят, нахуй. Бам, бам. Просто вот без директории, нахуй. То есть даже сомнений никаких не было, что он туда ударил. Просто, блядь, ну, типа, чисто по директории, просто бам. Вот именно бам. Блядь. Так. И меня хуярит терпеть на это говно. Ой, нет, блядь, просто не... Классно.
I only have 30 seconds. I gotta rush it. Easy. Well, there's only like 5 of us left now. Most of these kids haven't even developed object permanence yet. Does Roblox have like murder and shit?
Просто невозможно играть.
Like, do I just need to survive here, or am I trying to like rip scalps off of heads? Fucking claim skulls. What's happening? What? What happened?
Ну, мне не дают мурлока намеренно. Ни мурлоков, ни рыки, нихуя, просто нихуя нету карт, ни дракари, ничего нету, блядь, просто ничего. Просто прекрасно.
So what's this one like? The child predator? His name's just Jim Wool. Well, that guy's cheating. Dude just activated fucking no clip. $300 for a skin, but you can't buy talent. That guy was holding my hand. Poor guy.
Прикольно.
Oh, not skinny bottle. Dude actually is cheating. Holy shit. Does Roblox have a problem with hackers? Sir Poop's gonna do it! Let's go, Sir Poop! Yeah! Let's go! You can hack in Roblox with Cheat Engine? Oh, so it's really easy. Even I know how to use Cheat Engine. I'm not gonna hack though, unless I really get desperate to overthrow I'm a gamer. Thanks for some space.
Меня ядрячок даже никуда не ударит. Ну, нормально, то есть нормально все.
It just happens to be on Roblox.
Просто у меня первый раз появилась возможность собрать сетап, меня хуярит на 4350. Меня хуярит на 4350, при том, что у меня собрался сетап на драконов. Ну, нормально, я его забежал. У меня нету антаунта, блядь, просто. Просто без комментариев, нахуй. Просто все роллы против меня, все против меня, нормально. Классно. Очень здорово.
Fine motor skills, that's what these kids lack.
Да, здорово просто. Все против меня, класс. Просто классно.
Optimal gamer DPI. Easy lineup. Oh my god, I almost fell. And we're in. Not first, but pretty close. Well, Jim Wool's gonna be a fucking monster. Oh my god. I didn't think Jim made it. Fuck. We're locked in here with him now. Don't do it, Prof. Don't do it! Sir Poop. He's RPing. Get out of here, Sir Poop. What if no one like fights each other? What if we really did just choose peace? Don't do it. Don't do it. Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah. I'm pretty good at this game. All right, we survived. God damn it. No one killed Jim Wool? Fucking gang up on the guy. Fuck. Oh my god, we got the hacker. Let's go!
И Козел
they
умирает
have Jim
просто.
Wool.
Нормально.
They have something stronger than hacks. A fucking force of nature. Oh, fuck. How do I play this one? I wasn't even reading. I'm assuming I just like walk backwards a lot. What do I... Oh. Oh, I see.
И опять это у него.
Fuck. Jim Wool's eating us alive. We're doing it. doing it! Fuck him up! Easy, idiots. Rest in peace. Jim's probably not even dead. He'll probably be in here somewhere. He transcends the dimensions. For Jim, there is no life and death, just existence. Where do I put my my wager? Oh god, it's even obviously, but where do I put my wager? Let's go! I'm nuts! Oh, it's a random wager. Okay, I'm cruising. One thing I understand about statistics and probability is that it's always going to be even. In fact, it's never been odd in the history of stats. And it's not about to start, baby. We don't see odd out here. Why does this guy just keep saying, go Flash? Fuck. Hey, I only lost one. Let's go. That's easy. It's impossible for it to be odd
Так и не нашел сюда poison.
I don't think it's ever been done before, and it never will.
Все хорошо. Я за всю игру мне просто в тупую меня выставляют. Просто пиздец. Просто пиздец. Просто в тупую. Просто чувствую.
This is obviously going back-to-back evens all day. I'm feeling her. I'm inside of her right now. I'm in the mainframe. I'm jacking in. Back-to-back evens. All day. We don't stop. And just show me even. Cause well, like I said, it's impossible for it to be back-to-back odds, so it's clearly gonna flip back to even. If math has taught us anything.
Когда-нибудь я смогу первый походить, избить бабл, хуйня. Ой, просто ядами меня хуярят, просто на похуй, блять, я не могу там бабл найти, и меня... Против внезапно клоуны с ядами, нормально, против меня конкретно. Чё нет? Внезапно, внезапно, нахуй, на похуй. У чела ни одного таунта, просто на похуй, сейчас если линейно сломается. Нормально.
And it's back-to-back evens, like I said it would be. An ordinary stupid idiot would think that it'd have to be odd now since it's been even like 5 times in a row. But an intellectual like me, I've browsed Reddit, I know my shit. This is even again. There's no world where this flips odd. I actually don't think the programming would allow it. Let's go! Gambling is so easy, it's just free money. Now, obviously you'd think to yourself, Charlie, there's no way it's going to be even 8 times in a row. And then I'd look at you and spit in your face because you're fucking stupid. Obviously it's going to be even. It doesn't have
Просто чел первый раз в игру зашел, нахуй, он меня почти... Он меня выигрывает, нахуй. Нормально. Просто это пиздец. Просто невозможно играть.
Now what it's trying to lure me into like a